Bennett Kessler filed this following report. Earlier in March, Bishop Police Chief Chris Carter announced that as many as 200 Bishop area citizens had reported that their credit or debit cards had been compromised and used in fraudulent purchases. Now, the cases were turned over to the FBI and others. Bishop Police say they continue to get 6 to 10 additional fraud reports a day. Now, according to Bishop Police Public Information Officer Katie Kaufman, Chief Carter spoke with the State Department of Justice of Computer Crimes Task Force about these cases. Now, she said they were familiar with this type of crime, which is widespread in many towns. Now, Kaufman said Bishop Police continue to forward information to federal and state agencies. She also said that some credit card companies have red flagged the Bishop area as a problem. Now, initially, Chief Carter said that most of the prominent locations of the credit card number theft was at Vaughn's Grocery and Gas Station, as well as Smart and Final and Duane's. Now, Kaufman said that since then, Duane's has made, quote, significant changes to make its system safer, end quote. And she said Vaughn's found nothing to indicate the crimes. Now, Kaufman said victims mention a number of businesses where they use their cards, but most mention Vaughn's. Now, Kaufman said that the Bishop Police Department is still asking that victims of credit card and debit card fraud give police information that can be compiled and forwarded to the Computer Crime Task Force. Now, the fact that there is a task force investigating computer crimes pretty much says it all in 2013. Now, this is a widespread and common crime that seems to be growing and knows no favorites. Police Chief Carter and others in the Bishop Police Department have been victims, along with scores of other local residents. Now, the best advice, well, use cash or checks if possible, and examine your credit card statements closely. Well, Bennett Kessler also filed this report. Sources close to the situation had confirmed that the Inyo District Attorney's Office has undertaken additional investigations in the reported embezzlement of funds from the Inyo Welfare Office in Bishop. Inyo County District Attorney Art Millay issued a press release on this case. Now, the release says that investigators from the DA's office, quote, will be taking over the investigation in the alleged embezzlement of public funds from the Inyo County Health and Human Services, end quote. The release goes on to say that the Bishop Police Department had sent a law enforcement report to the district attorney's office. Now, according to the DA, quote, it required additional investigation and was returned to the Bishop Police Department for further clarification of several issues, end quote. Now, DA Millay says that Chief Chris Carter has, quote, informed the district attorney's office that after their follow-up investigation, they will do no further investigation due to the lack of resources, end quote. The DA says his office will complete the investigation. Now, when contacted for his comments on this, Bishop Police Chief Chris Carter said, quote, the DA has decided to pursue other charges in addition to the embezzlement. Now, the PD and district attorney have worked closely together on this investigation. However, as stated by the district attorney, the PD did not have sufficient resources to complete the additional investigation regarding these other offenses, and therefore the district attorney investigators have taken over that portion of this investigation, end quote. Now, Chief Carter had reported that his department concluded and handed over the embezzlement case over to the DA on February 21st. Now, since then, reports indicate other issues came up for investigation. Officials have so far not revealed how much money is involved in this case. Now, the DA's press release says that his office will complete their investigation on or about April 15th. And at that time, says the release, the DA's office will determine what charges should be filed, if any, and who should be charged. Now, in earlier weeks of the investigation, Bishop Police Department identified Don D. Rossi, a welfare office employee, as a, quote, person of interest, end quote. Officers had served a search warrant at her Bishop home. Well, Bennett Kessler also filed this report. Persistent rumors that Vail Resorts will conclude a deal to buy Mammoth Mountain Ski Area prompted a call to ski area CEO Rusty Gregory. He said he is not sure where the rumors are coming from and that, quote, there is no offering by Vail and there is no deal in the works, end quote. Now, Gregory said he knows the people at Vail and took a trip there a few weeks ago. He said, quote, I spent time with them on ski industry matters, end quote. Now, he said there is nothing special going on other than running the resort and having good snow. Now, the CEO went further and said, quote, we're not looking to sell, end quote. Now, asked about the specific rumors that Vail Associates had purchased 3 houses in Mammoth Lakes and that a Vail corporate jet had been in town recently, Gregory said, quote, Vail doesn't have a jet and they have not purchased housing in Mammoth Lakes, end quote. Now, Gregory added that Mammoth Mountain is a, quote, coveted asset for those who want a ski resort, end quote. But to the rumor that a Vail deal would close at the end of July, Gregory said, we're not looking to sell, end quote. Now, Sierra Wave Media contacted Vail Resorts and a spokesman in corporate communications said, quote, thank you for reaching out to us, but we have no comment on the matter, end quote. Now, Gregory had brought up the Vail rumor at a recent staff meeting at the mountain to also say that these are just rumors. Meanwhile, Gregory said that this season will likely see around 1.2 million visits, depending on how the rest of the spring goes. Last year, with meager snowfall, the mountain saw 920,000 visits, and the previous year, a record snow year, hosted 1.3 million visits. Well, Bennett Kessler also filed this story. June Lake residents want to keep the heat on Mammoth Mountain and its land exchange to acquire the acreage at the main lodge. They say this is their only leverage to push ski area CEO Rusty Gregory into a commitment to reopen June Mountain with major improvements and marketing. Now, Alice Suzinski of the Committee for a Viable June Mountain said the Forest Service land exchange for Mammoth Mountain is related to the closure of June Mountain. She said, quote, Mammoth Mountain ski area is not a good steward of public land and not deserving of special attention by the Forest Service. They neglected public lands, she said, and it has affected June Lake, end quote. Now, in recent days, Inyo Congressman Paul Cook and former Congressman for our area Buck McKeon introduced a bill to facilitate the Mammoth Mountain land exchange. June Lake people have fought the bill. Ms. Suzinski said citizens contacted Congressman Cook, who she said was not responsive. Now, she added, quote, we want him to know why it's a bad deal for us. It's our leverage to get Mammoth Mountain to act on June Mountain instead of putting a Band-Aid on it, end quote. Now, citizens want Rusty Gregory to make a commitment in writing. Suzinski said they also want him to, quote, no longer neglect improvements that are necessary to make it a viable ski area. We also want it promoted, end quote. Now, residents want to see snowmaking return to June and an improved J1 chairlift. Now, Gregory has publicly stated that he will reopen June Mountain next season, and letters to pass holders for next season say the passes are good for June Mountain. Now, citizens say they want a lot more than that. More discussion is expected at Tuesday's Citizens Advisory Committee meeting, and that will be in June Lake, and then again April 9th at the Mono Supervisors meeting. We'll have more on the Inyo and Mono Supervisors meetings tomorrow, coming up after a break.